Howdy folks, quick one this week. Welcome back to Grumpy Shed. I'm here to show you the Roadlok. So apologies, I don't have an install video, but I do have a new GoPro. Check it out, and it lets me show you the unit after it's been installed. So the basics are, it's a disc lock that is actually attached onto your brake caliper. Now KTM do their own version of this that you can get as part of the Power Parts program, and it's quite spendy. Now it's quite spendy on its own. KTM probably want about like 300 quid out of you for this, whereas I was able to grab it for about $200 online directly from Roadlok. And so the basics of how it works is it attaches onto the back of your brake caliper via the regular caliper bolts, and it goes around your disc, so it goes either side of it, and then there is a lock with a key and a sort of a cylinder there. And so what it does is there's a unit that comes with it that slides into here and slots into one of the holes in your disc. So this here is your locking cylinder. It's a sort of a steel pin with a thing on the back of it, and this kind of snaps in and out. And so to lock it, you lash it in there and then lock it with a key, and they give you 2 keys with the thing, and it's fairly straightforward. When you are not using it, so when you're on the road, they give you a little plastic locking plug just so there's no gick that gets in there, and that actually locks in, so it's good and solid. Alright, just to show you the way it gets locked. So you shove that in there, get your key, and turn it and shove it all the way in, and so that's now locked. The key is a little sort of janky in it, like it's not dead solid in there, so I'm not entirely happy with that, but that sits there with a very tiny dope rope there, so you don't forget it's on there. Now the thing with regular disc locks is that if you have it on the disc and you go to ride the motorbike off, you could end up fucking falling over or fucking up your caliper or fucking up the other part of your bike. That's not great. With this, what happens when you go to pull off is that you pull off, you get a couple of inches, it slides into your brake disc, and it stops. And so it's exerting the same pressure on your brake disc that your actual brakes are. Like, it's not going to actually break anything unless this pin actually snaps, or unless it does something to the hole on the brake disc or something like that. So it's a little better for if you actually forget to take it off. At the moment, after I've armed it, it's actually sitting against the brake disc. It hasn't actually slotted into one of the holes. The manufacturer says you're supposed to sort of move the bike forward a couple of inches so that it slots into one of the holes. I don't do that. I just kind of leave it because it can be a bit stiff when you're yanking it back out again if it's against the hole and there's pressure on the side of the hole. So the manufacturer then says what you're supposed to do is jiggle the bike forward and back so it's not actually pushed up against the edge of the hole it's in. But I find it's better just to, if it happens to go into the hole, then that's fair enough. But if you are resting against the disc, that's actually okay. Someone tries to roll the bike away, it's just going to slot after a couple of inches and be done. So when you come back to the bike, you get your fiddly key, this pops out, you get your little plastic plug, shove it in the same way, and there you go. So there's no gick or messing or anything like that getting into the little hole. And that's the basics of it. The only thing I've done aside from fit it, and I'll talk about the fitment in a sec, is I stuck a little hole in this plastic plug. This plastic plug, it's fucking guaranteed that I will lose this at some point. And so they sell spares, but I just kind of went, do you know what, I'm gonna just stick a little hole in it, stick a bit of paracord or a a pin through it or something like that, just so that I can actually hang it off key rings or something like that. So fitting it is very straightforward. The instructions that come with it are great. They have, specific instructions for a load of bikes, not for this bike, but again, that's fine. This is a super adventure. You just sort of take one of your caliper bolts out, measure how much thread there is. There's 14 mil of thread, and then use the right bolt and use the right sort of spacer here and a little spacer. I ended up using the 90 mil bolts, the longer bolts that came, and one of the 5 mil spacers, and I think it's one of the 15 or something mil things. I've been using it for a couple of weeks now, and I kind of recommend it. It's very, very spendy for what's essentially a disc lock, but just for the peace of mind of not forgetting your disc lock, and for a little added security, and it doesn't look terrible either. There you go. That's the Roadlok.